Transport Canada is freezing rebate payments for Tesla until each claim is individually investigated. The move comes after revelations the EV maker suspiciously filed for rebates.
Over 100,000 visitors are expected at this week's Vancouver International Auto Show, eager to explore the latest models. But there's a major automaker absent from the event.
We are receiving overwhelmingly positive comments, agreeing that we made the right decision to remove Tesla from the show solely from a safety position.
Massive tensions in the auto industry have dominated headlines the past 48 hours. Fresh trade restrictions, bold tariff proposals, and astonishing supply chain disruptions have rattled manufacturers from Detroit to Shanghai.
As CTV News reported, 4 Tesla locations in Canada submitted paperwork for the sale of 8,600 vehicles over a 72-hour period in the final days of the rebate program in January.
This sudden wave of shifts, reported on March 24th, 2025 in the latest Commerce Department bulletin, just happened. It's catching corner offices and assembly lines off guard. One leading official claimed, "We're prepared to do whatever it takes to protect domestic growth." Sounds determined, but is this the tip of the iceberg? Big automakers, some homegrown, others based in Europe, Japan, and China, are scrambling. They're accelerating electric vehicle production in the States while also navigating a flurry of unexpected regulatory hurdles. Gone are the days when these companies worried only about raw materials like lithium, steel, or microchips. Now they face a geopolitical puzzle that's growing more complex by the day. Government leaders, labor unions, and cutthroat startups all want a piece of the green energy revolution, sparking policy debates that echo in every corner of Washington. The stakes are enormous. If a few lines of trade code can shutter factories and shave billions from an industry's bottom line, we have to ask, is the entire automotive landscape being reshaped overnight? Recent chatter online points to new sanctions aimed at foreign-made batteries. These are critical components in electric cars and trucks, which are quickly surpassing traditional internal combustion vehicles in sales growth. Washington's rationale is straightforward enough. Secure a stable domestic supply chain and reduce dependence on foreign entities. Yet, executives from Shanghai to Berlin are questioning whether these measures undermine free market principles or sabotage crucial partnerships. Meanwhile, newly released data indicates that sales of imported EV parts jumped 12% last quarter, making the United States even more reliant on overseas manufacturing. That surprising figure landed in a Reuters roundup on March 25th, calling into question official claims of strong domestic supply. The background is complicated by competing visions for America's energy future.
As Donald Trump prepares for his second term, the energy sector rejoices in the upcoming decisive shift. His administration's approach promises to undo many of President Biden's policies.
One faction, led by lawmakers championing a greener economy, wants renewable energy independence at any cost. Another faction argues that bridging alliances, not walls, is the best way forward, especially when the fight against climate change demands global cooperation. All the while, inflation and consumer spending are swinging wildly, leading some experts to warn of a potential recession if trade battles escalate. Why is this relevant now? Because the new tariff proposals and the intensifying trade environment might spark chain reactions that ripple across every major economic sector. No one is entirely sure if these moves will trigger a renaissance in domestic manufacturing or cause chaotic price hikes. The controversy is deepening at the speed of a production line, and if the auto industry takes a severe hit, the ripple effect could rush through steel plants, technology firms, and regional economies worldwide. One might wonder, what else might break if the world's biggest automotive markets keep colliding in a storm of geopolitical tensions? An unsettling sense of urgency hovers as policymakers weigh the newest proposals. After all, these aren't minor tweaks. The tariffs under discussion are designed to be potent. For some, they are viewed as protective shields. For others, they might be explosive catalysts that ignite a global trade war. To understand just how far-reaching these sparks could fly, look to the statistics. The United States imported over $35 billion worth of automotive components from East Asia last year, according to a trade report posted online on March 25th. Slash that pipeline or slap new duties on it, and the consequences could be enormous. Some corporate leaders, especially those in innovative battery tech, are sounding alarm bells over what might come next. They say these tariffs could block vital partnerships that have so far fueled the transition to electric vehicles. One recent quote from a senior executive at a California-based EV startup reads, "Collaboration with international suppliers has enabled us to bring our costs down and speed up production. That synergy, critics argue, is now in jeopardy." Meanwhile, consumer advocates fear that if manufacturing costs spike, sticker prices will follow, leaving everyday buyers either priced out or forced to shoulder heavier monthly payments. Could this put the brakes on the widespread adoption of green tech? The pressure is ramping up quickly. Reports just in from March 25th reveal that trade negotiators in Washington were blindsided by new statements from the Chinese Ministry of Commerce, which threatened retaliatory tariffs on select American goods. This stands to hit everything from agricultural exports to raw materials, escalating tensions beyond the auto sector. If manufacturers in both countries face higher costs overnight, the effect on global supply chains and everyday products could be staggering. By the way, if this video resonates, give it a like. It helps this video reach a broader audience. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit notifications to stay in the loop. Now, the real flashpoint might not be limited to the US-China arena. European automakers, from Germany to the United Kingdom, are monitoring these developments nervously. They rely on components from both American and Chinese factories, threading the supply chains across multiple continents. If either side escalates into a full-blown tariff war, these European giants risk becoming collateral damage, trapped by complicated rules that drive up costs and complicate shipping routes. The entire global automotive mosaic could be shaken.
Yes, I think we are all very excited and waiting with bated breath to see what the final tariffs would look like and what that deal could be, because Trump is saying he's willing to trade off those tariffs in exchange for getting Beijing support to sell TikTok. And remember, that deadline is April 5th, which is the end of next week.
There's also the question of alliances. A rumored pact between certain Asian nations and the European Union to boost their own EV production volumes recently surfaced in a Politico article. Though not officially confirmed, insiders suggest it could reduce Europe's reliance on American and Chinese battery imports if things head south. It's yet another straw on the camel's back, intensifying disruption in an already fractured economic environment. One wonders, could we witness a tripolar split in global auto supply chains? Or is that just speculation feeding an already hypercharged climate? Geopolitical watchers argue that events are cascading faster than either side can manage. New announcements, new red lines, new rhetorical jabs. It collapses the usual slow pace of international negotiations into a series of daily bombshells. And it's right at this fault line where the fragile balance between progress and deadlock forms. From the outside, it's easy to see a powder keg. But from within, every stakeholder vows that they're defending domestic jobs, national security, or technological innovation. The question remains, can these contradictory stories find a resolution that doesn't send shockwaves through the very economies they claim to protect? The roots of these tensions run deep. Decades of policy decisions, shifting alliances, and uneasy trade compromises have now collided with one unstoppable force, the electric revolution. Until recently, internal combustion engines were king. But with EV uptake hitting record highs this year, old supply chain models are under strain. Lawmakers see a chance to reshape domestic manufacturing for a cleaner future. Meanwhile, traditional auto giants scramble to reinvest, retool, and remain relevant. Witness the wave of factory renovations across Michigan, Ohio, and Tennessee. Projects worth over $10 billion collectively, sparked by government support for EV transition. But as one state official told local media, we need global input. We can't go it alone. In truth, The story is more complicated if we look beyond official narratives. Some suspect protectionist motives disguised as environmental zeal. After all, efforts to secure local supply chains don't necessarily align with genuine ecological goals. A contrarian viewpoint might say the United States is commandeering green rhetoric to shield its economy from international competition. But what if it's the other way around? Some argue that foreign rivals, noting the breakneck pace of EV expansion, aim to flood the US market with cheaper products while domestic players are still finding their footing. In that sense, tariffs become self-defense rather than aggression. The ripple effect doesn't stop at cars. Battery technology is at the heart of the clean energy movement. From home energy storage to electric public transport, battery demand is soaring. If supply chain lines shift dramatically, areas like solar power stations or advanced robotics may also feel the pinch. That's why voices from environmental nonprofits are urging caution, worried that market turmoil might undermine climate goals. According to a March 24th post by a leading climate advocacy group, trade must support, not sidetrack the global effort to reduce emissions. Policymakers weigh these debates with a mix of caution and ambition. Some fervently believe in forging new alliances on battery research, forging pacts that cut across geopolitical lines. Others see homegrown solutions, such as ramping up mines for lithium in Nevada, or forging deeper partnerships with Canada, a friendly neighbor with a wealth of critical minerals. But can these alternatives materialize fast enough to meet the skyrocketing demand? Critics say it's a gamble. If the US invests too heavily in domestic production without bridging gaps abroad, it could spark retaliation from major trade partners. Price disparities could balloon, innovation might slow, and yet supporters maintain it's the only way to future-proof a domestic EV industry that's forecast to be worth hundreds of billions by the end of the decade. The question still lingers. By pushing too hard, too fast, does America risk losing the cooperative spirit that developed many of these brilliant technologies? As tensions swirl, the search for alternatives intensifies. Some talk about forging joint ventures that bypass official tariffs. Others consider adopting advanced recycling programs to reduce raw material imports. There's even talk of pivoting to hydrogen fuel cells, stepping aside from the battery chessboard entirely. But the truth is, no single approach has universal support. We're witnessing a messy transition with big consequences and no straightforward roadmap. Could the next major breakthrough come from an unexpected alliance? Or will entrenched interests keep these paths firmly blocked? The outcome may hinge on whether global collaboration or fierce competition triumphs by the year's end. The first big implication is straightforward. If tariffs intensify, the cost structure for vehicles shifts. Dealers and automakers might face a choice: absorb rising import costs themselves or pass them on to the consumer. Either way, the broader economy feels the strain. This concern just happened to make front-page headlines in a financial news outlet on March 25th. They warned that a spike in EV prices could stall the broader adoption of cleaner cars. For an industry hailed as the next frontier, that's a grim possibility. But it doesn't stop at the dealership price tag. Upstream, we find a labyrinth of factories, shipping routes, and research facilities. If supply lines stretch or snap due to tariffs, firms could scramble to relocate production, negotiate new contracts behind the scenes, or pivot to secondary suppliers. Picture a scenario where hundreds of thousands of battery cells must be sourced from untested plants, risking early failures or quality issues. That in turn affects consumer trust. On the flip side, if American companies succeed in nurturing a reliable homegrown supply, they might fortify their market position for decades, reducing vulnerability to global shocks. Geopolitically, there's a big question. Which side might blink first? Beijing isn't shy about responding to trade challenges with its own measures. And US officials, especially those in Congress, are emboldened by a national sentiment that ranks job creation very high on the priority list. So if both sides keep doubling down, the fallout could be enormous. Some observers recall the trade disputes of the late 2010s that rattled tech stocks and raised smartphone prices. Now, with automotive technology so strongly intertwined with national security, especially around advanced batteries, data, and software, the stakes have escalated considerably. Equally compelling is the possibility that these tensions push new players into the spotlight. Smaller countries, such as those in Southeast Asia or Africa, could position themselves as alternative sources for minerals and manufacturing. If they emerge as viable partners, we might see a fundamental reshuffling of global automotive networks. Already, a consortium of African nations is exploring the creation of a lithium corridor, which was mentioned in a trade journal earlier this month, and it could become a direct competitor to existing supply lines. This shift might also open doors for new economic alliances that bypass US-China friction entirely. For many in the auto sector, the real uncertainty lies in how quickly technology evolves. If EV battery designs morph into simpler, cheaper solutions, then the advantage of importing might diminish anyway. But if complexity remains high and advanced research is scattered across multiple continents, collaboration becomes indispensable. A sudden resolution in negotiations could restore trade flows, spurring robust growth across all markets. Alternatively, a standoff or fresh confrontation about intellectual property or even energy resources might plunge the industry into deeper instability. The next few months look unpredictable. According to several analysts, the White House is rumored to be drafting a new policy package that intensifies the focus on critical minerals. It could drop as early as next week. Will that calm markets or spark a new wave of disruptions? For anyone watching, caution is advised because the automotive world is pivoting fast. A single design breakthrough, a fresh trade deal, or a surprising alliance might fundamentally alter where and how vehicles are made. But if the worst-case scenario arises, an entrenched, protracted trade war, consumers and economies stand to pay a hefty price. Might that outcome serve as a wake-up call to fix our fractured global system, or will each side dig in deeper? For every bombshell headline about tariffs and retaliations, there's a growing realization that the auto industry's future hangs in the balance. Technological leaps and environmental goals align in principle, but cords of distrust between major powers could snap that unity at any moment. Urgent voices on Capitol Hill and at international summits warn that we have limited time to settle differences before new conflicts overshadow progress. The note of caution echoes from labor unions as well. They want strong domestic protections, but also stable international ties to keep factory doors open. But what if there's an even bigger step we're missing? A contrarian viewpoint posits that these trade battles underscore the need for a radical global agreement on clean energy, transcending narrow self-interest. Some suggest a climate-centric pact that grants tariff exemptions for climate-friendly tech. Critics, however, doubt such cooperation can flourish amid political tensions. Yet, the promise of a more collaborative frontier, one where each nation invests, researches, and grows together, might galvanize a broader, more sustainable shift. Is it overly optimistic, or is this exactly what's needed? Every sign points to an inflection point. If you find the idea of building a resilient, equitable, and innovative auto sector compelling, the time to act is now. Policymakers must hear from economists, workers, and forward-thinking entrepreneurs before irreversible measures take hold. Public debate can shape the calculus. Watching from the sidelines is no longer an option. The disruptions are here, rattling communities, stock prices, and the planet's future. It's not just about which brand sells the most cars, but how an industry can collectively steer humanity toward progress. So, what's next? Do tariffs protect or poison the auto industry? How will potential retaliations hit everyday budgets? Let us know in the comments below. Also, if you've enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.